Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're taking a cosmic perspective on history. You see, just like in the vast expanse of space where a single atom can be crucial to the formation of a star, history is filled with seemingly insignificant events that have had monumental impacts. We're talking about historical paradoxes, those random occurrences that make you wonder, what if? These are the butterfly wings that set off hurricanes in the past. Get ready to explore the fascinating world of historical paradoxes, where small events have shaped the destiny of nations and changed the course of human history. Let's get started. Imagine a world where America spoke German. It almost happened. Yes, you heard that right. The United States as we know it could have been a predominantly German-speaking nation. In the early days of the United States, German was a widely spoken language among settlers, almost as common as English. Communities thrived with German newspapers, schools, and churches. In fact, it was so prevalent that a proposal was put forth to make German the official language of the newly formed nation. This wasn't just a fleeting idea, it was a serious consideration. Can you imagine the debates, the arguments, the sheer logistical nightmare of switching an entire nation's language? The discussions were intense, filled with passion and conviction from both sides. The vote in Congress was incredibly close, a true nail-biter. Every vote counted, and the tension in the room was palpable. In the end, English won by a single vote. Just one vote made all the difference, shaping the linguistic future of an entire nation. Can you imagine the alternate reality if that one congressman had swayed the other way? A German-speaking America would have been a vastly different place. Think about the cultural implications, the ripple effects throughout history. Our literature, our music, even our legal system might have evolved differently. Would we be celebrating Oktoberfest as a national holiday instead of the 4th of July? Our national identity could have taken on a whole new flavor. Would hamburgers be called, well, something else entirely? Perhaps we'd be more familiar with bratwurst and sauerkraut as everyday staples. This single vote highlights the fragility of our reality, the fine line between what is and what could have been. It underscores how delicate the threads of history truly are. It's a stark reminder that even the most ingrained aspects of our world, like the language we speak, were once hanging by a thread. The decisions of a few can shape the destiny of many. It makes you wonder about all the other almost moments in history, the tiny shifts that could have dramatically altered our present. What other decisions were made by the slimmest of margins? This is the power of historical paradoxes. They challenge our assumptions and make us question the very fabric of our past. They remind us that history is not set in stone, but a series of choices and chances. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was scheduled to visit Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. It was a date etched in infamy, but not for the reasons you might think. You see, the Archduke's driver took a wrong turn, a simple navigational error that would have enormous consequences. As the motorcade idled, trying to correct the mistake, a young Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip happened to be at a nearby cafe. He had earlier abandoned his attempt to assassinate the Archduke, believing he'd missed his chance, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. Seeing the Archduke's car stranded in the street, Princip seized the opportunity, firing the shots that plunged Europe and eventually the world into the chaos of World War I. Now imagine if that driver had taken the correct route. Franz Ferdinand might have lived, and the chain of events leading to the Great War might have been broken. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? A wrong turn, a chance encounter, and the course of history is forever altered. This is the essence of historical paradoxes, the unsettling realization that monumental events can hinge on the most trivial of circumstances. It's enough to make you wonder about all the other what-ifs lurking in the shadows of the past. Chapter 3. Napoleon Bonaparte, the emperor who reshaped Europe, a military genius whose strategies are still studied today. His campaigns and battles are legendary, and his name is synonymous with military prowess. Yet even titans can be felled by forces beyond their control, forces that are as unpredictable as they are powerful. At the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, a pivotal moment in history, Napoleon faced a formidable foe in the Duke of Wellington, a man of equal determination and strategic brilliance. But Napoleon had a secret weapon, or so he thought, or rather he was counting on the absence of one rain. He believed that clear skies would be his ally. Napoleon's plan relied on dry ground for his artillery to maneuver effectively, His cannons needed firm terrain to be moved swiftly and positioned strategically. However, a series of heavy downpours turned the battlefield into a muddy quagmire, a treacherous landscape that no one could have anticipated, bogging down his cannons and crippling his attack. This delay proved fatal, as it gave his enemies the precious time they needed. Wellington, bolstered by Prussian reinforcements, seized the opportunity, launched a counteroffensive, routing the French army and ending Napoleon's reign. The dream of a French-dominated Europe was shattered. Now imagine if the weather had cooperated with Napoleon. A few sunny days, a different set of circumstances, and the outcome of Waterloo might have been very different. The French forces could have triumphed, altering the course of history. Europe, under continued French dominance, would have been a vastly different place. The political landscape, the cultural influences, everything could have shifted. The ripple effects of such a victory would have been felt across the continent and beyond. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The fate of nations, the destinies of millions, the rise and fall of empires, all potentially swayed by a bit of rain. A simple weather pattern could change the course of history. It's a cosmic joke, really, that the grand narratives of history can be so easily disrupted by something as mundane as the weather. It's a reminder of the unpredictability of life, that the grand narratives of history can be so easily disrupted by something as mundane as the weather. Even the best laid plans can go awry, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The unpredictability, the chaos. The universe doesn't play favorites, and even the most powerful figures in history are subject to its whims. It's a humbling thought. And so, the story of Napoleon at Waterloo serves as a timeless lesson in humility and the power of nature. Chapter 4. World War II had just ended, the world still reeling from the devastation. But the seeds of a new conflict, one with potentially apocalyptic consequences, were already being sown. Operation Unthinkable, a plan devised by British military planners at the behest of Winston Churchill, envisioned a surprise attack on the Soviet Union. The goal? To force the Soviets to relinquish control of Eastern Europe. Tensions were high, mistrust ran deep, and the specter of nuclear war loomed large. One wrong move, one miscalculation, one inflammatory statement could have tipped the balance and plunged the world back into chaos. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. Stalin, despite his paranoia and ruthlessness, recognized the folly of another global conflict, especially one that could escalate to unimaginable levels of destruction. Operation Unthinkable was shelved, consigned to the dustbin of history's might-have-beens, but it serves as a chilling reminder of how close we came to the brink. A single miscommunication, a diplomatic blunder, and the world as we know it might have ceased to exist. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? That the survival of our species, the fate of our planet, could hinge on the restraint of a few individuals. It makes you appreciate the fragility of peace, the constant vigilance required to prevent the horrors of the past from repeating themselves. Chapter 5. Russia, a land of vast steppes and unforgiving winters, a place where the cold isn't just a season but a force that shapes history. It's a country that has repeatedly used its climate as a weapon, a silent ally against invaders. The harsh winters have been as formidable as any army. Napoleon learned this the hard way in 1812 when his Grande Armée, decimated by disease, starvation, and the bitter cold, was forced to retreat from Moscow. The winter was relentless, turning his grand ambitions into a frozen nightmare. Over a century later, Hitler would suffer a similar fate, his dreams of conquest shattered by the same icy hand. His Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941, ground to a halt in the face of fierce resistance and a winter for the history books. The cold was an enemy he hadn't anticipated. The German army, ill-equipped for the sub-zero temperatures, suffered frostbite, hypothermia, and dwindling morale. The winter was merciless, breaking the spirit of even the most hardened soldiers. The Russian winter, it seemed, was fighting back, sapping the strength of the invaders and turning the tide of the war. Nature itself became a defender of the homeland. Now, imagine if those winters had been mild. What if the cold had not been a factor? What if Napoleon had enjoyed balmy weather during his Russian campaign? Would his army have marched triumphantly into Moscow? What if Hitler's troops had been greeted by a mild Eastern European winter? Would his forces have pushed further into Soviet territory? Would history have unfolded differently? Would Moscow have fallen? The questions are endless, and the possibilities intriguing. Would the course of the 20th century have been irrevocably altered? The impact of weather on these pivotal moments is undeniable. It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? The idea that the fate of nations could hinge on something as unpredictable as the weather. The idea that something as seemingly random as the weather could have such a profound impact on the course of human events. It makes you wonder about the other unseen forces at play in history. It's a reminder that we are all, even the most powerful among us, subject to the whims of nature. No matter how grand our plans, we are all at the mercy of the elements. From a single vote to a wrong turn, from a rainstorm to a harsh winter, history is full of surprises and paradoxes. These seemingly insignificant events, these cosmic coincidences, remind us of the mystery and unpredictability of our past. They challenge us to look beyond the grand narratives and appreciate the role of chance, the butterfly effect that can ripple through time and shape the world we live in. So the next time you're reading a history book or watching a documentary, remember that behind every major event there's a chain of smaller events, a web of interconnectedness that stretches back through time. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you'll start to see the world a little differently, a little more attuned to the subtle ways in which the past continues to shape our present. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing historical insights.